We're in public.
Okay, so that's us now in public. Can I direct everybody to item number 5 on the agenda, the draft minutes, and refer members to draft minutes of proceedings, and they are page 96 to 102 of our meeting pack. Everybody content with the draft minutes of our meeting on 13th of June and that they're a true reflection? Content? Okay. Any matters arising? None. So we're moving then to item 7, which is the EU regulation on strengthening CO2 emission performance standards for new heavy-duty vehicles. And we're going to have departmental oral evidence. Can I refer members to page 5 to 92 of our meeting packs for the relevant papers, in particular to correspondence from the British Cabinet Office, which is at page 77 of the meeting pack, and the assessment of impact, which is at pages 85 to 87. Can I inform members that the Cabinet Office has advised that the EU rules on CO2 emissions performance standards for new vehicles and related reporting requirements do not apply here under the Windsor framework. So although the rules were originally listed in Annex II to the protocol, the EU and the UK agreed to remove them before the protocol took effect. Cabinet Office describes the changes that will apply here as residual technical and definitional amendments to Annex II legislation to accommodate the new concept of an e-trailer. So while the regulation in its entirety makes substantial changes, it is only the changes to the EU's 2018 type approval and market surveillance regulation that fall within the scope of the Windsor framework, and subsequently the storm break, and that's what the committee should be considering. So can I maybe invite officials to move forward? So can I just inform members that we have, and I hope I pronounced this correctly, Dorcas Cutrona, who is head of vehicle policy branch from the Department of Infrastructure, and David Gibson, vehicle policy branch, Department of Infrastructure as well, and you're going to brief the committee. So welcome to both of you to the committee. I'm going to hand over to you then.
Thank you very much, Chairman and committee, for inviting us along today. Well, I had prepared sort of like an introduction, but you more or less covered all the points. So really we're here just to talk about regulation 2018-858, and that is a minor change to definition to introduce the concept of an e-trailer. And really we're happy just to take any, DFT have advised that it's a very minor change to the definition, so they provided us with some information. If you want to ask us any questions, we're happy to take any questions on it.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? It's pretty straight.
I suppose, can we just confirm, Chairman, that whatever engagement there's been with DFT and whatever research the department has done itself confirms that there's going to be minimal impact in Northern Ireland and everything's kind of...
Well, we've had, if I'm honest, we've had no engagement on this until this past week, whenever we went to DFT to ask for information to provide you with information. So they had told us that there would be minimal impact for any companies here. Really, it would mean that any companies here that were producing e-trailers would be able to do it legally under adding this definition of what an e-trailer is. So it's a positive thing, and they don't think that there would be any kind of negative impact at all for any businesses here.
And we understand this happens regularly. They're used to these kinds of changes. It's not a significant thing. Do we have any concept as to how many people in Northern Ireland would be, or how many businesses in Northern Ireland might be impacted by it?
At this point in time, I think probably no businesses. There are very few trailer manufacturers here in Northern Ireland, but the e-trailers are... well, our understanding is that it's the big massive trailers that supermarkets use.
Supermarkets, yeah.
So I don't think there's any manufacturers in Northern Ireland that do that kind of trailer work. So it's a relatively new kind of concept, and DFT has said it's like a niche market at the moment, but they're sort of thinking that they're putting this change to the definition in, so like the future proof whenever the kind of basically it's I had asked about this.
It's okay, Dorcas. I mean, a lot of this was in our papers. I think it was just important to confirm for the record that was the case. Yeah. that it's all very minimal. Things have been checked out. The impact on Northern Ireland is negligible, and I think that's what we were aiming just to confirm with you, because it's one thing to hear it from DFT, it's another one to hear it from local people. So that's great. Thank you. Thanks, Chairman.
We have the wording change if you want to even, if you want to be advised what the actual change of the wording is. Would that help?
If you want to read that out.
Yeah, well, Regulation 2018-858, where it used for semi-trailer, what it used to say was semi-trailer means a towed vehicle in which the axle or axles are positioned behind the centre of gravity of the vehicle when uniformly loaded, and which is equipped with a connecting device permitting horizontal and vertical forces to be transmitted to the towing vehicle. Now the change for that is the definition is changing from towed vehicle to a semi-trailer means a trailer. So that's the change there. And then the definition for e-trailer means any kind of trailer that is able to contribute to the propulsion of the vehicle combination by using its own electric powertrain, and which is not able to be used on public roads without being actively towed by a motor vehicle. So it's just a new definition to be inserted.
That's great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's
Thank you.
probably one of the easiest evidence sessions you're going to be involved in.
Leif.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
So, members, under paragraph 8.1, Schedule 6B to the NI Act 1998, the committee must decide today whether or not to hold an inquiry into the published replacement EU Act that has been notified. Should the committee fail to decide, the failure will be treated as a decision not to hold an inquiry. So, having had regard to the legal advice on whether it appears likely that the replacement EU Act significantly differs in whole or in part from the scope or content of the EU instrument which it replaces, and also the departmental initial assessment on whether it appears likely that the Replacement Act would have a significant impact specific to everyday life of communities here in a way that is liable to persist, can I ask, do members wish to hold an inquiry into Regulation EU 2019-1242, strengthening the CO2 emissions performance standards for new heavy-duty vehicles and integrating reporting obligations, amending Regulation EU 2018-858 and repealing Regulation EU 2018-956? Okay, no dissenting voices. Okay. So, can I advise members that the committee's decision in relation to this Act will be published on its webpage? Okay. So, moving to item number 8 then, which is Council Regulation EU 2024-1652 on the tariff and statistical nomenclature. Oh my God. Nomenclature. That word there. And on the Common Customs Tariff. Nomenclature. Can I refer members to the relevant papers at page 105 to 159 of the meeting pack? Remind everybody that the committee agreed to monitor the regulation when it was notified at proposal stage. The Secretariat paper provides information on the Act and the committee's monitoring activity. The regulation was published in the EU Official Journal on the 10th of June but was not notified to the committee as a published Act. The clerk contacted the Cabinet Office to find out why that wasn't, why we weren't notified, and was informed that the legislation applies under Article 5.3 of the Windsor Framework, which is not within the lateral scope of the Stormont Break. Therefore, the committee would not be notified of the published Act. Are members content to note the publication of this EU Act and that it is not within the lateral scope of Stormont Break, or is there any further information required?
I don't know.
Happy? Okay. Item number 9 then, information papers on EU matters. These can be found at pages 160 to 173 of the meeting pack. The papers have been provided by the EU Affairs team and they cover democratic consent mechanism, committee remits and common frameworks. Are members content that the papers are published on the committee's web pages under the useful resources section, and that a letter is issued to all MLAs advising that the papers have been published? Yep, I've read them, very useful. Okay, so item number 10, correspondence. At page 175 of the meeting pack is a response from the Department of Health to the committee's letter of 2nd of May 2024 seeking views on issues raised by the World Alliance for Mercury-Free Dentistry regarding the calculation of cost for transitioning and reimbursement from amalgam to composite fillings. So the Council adopted the regulation on 30th of May. We now await publication in the EU Official Journal. When published, the British Government will notify the Committee, and a decision on whether to hold an inquiry into this Act will need to be taken. So, are members content that the response is published on the Committee webpage as part of the evidence received already in relation to this Act?
Read.
Okay. 11, Chair's business. So, this committee only meets when it needs to, and that includes recess periods. Given the likelihood that we will need to meet during summer recess, it would be helpful if members notified the Secretariat of the dates when they are unable to attend a meeting during July and August period, because there's going to be room availability. We don't need to stick with Thursday morning meeting, so although we will need to adhere to the timelines attached to our statutory functions. In addition, members will have the option of joining remotely, so we'll probably ask that we get an email just reminding us of this after this committee meeting, if people could respond if they have holidays booked, just blocking out times when they're not going to be available should we need to meet, and it makes it easier for us to arrange that. Everybody happy with that?
Yep.
Okay. Item number 12, any other business? None. So, date, time and place of next meeting, which we have received no notifications. So there was one thing that we were going to discuss next week, but it's not particularly urgent. Yeah. So I'm going to suggest, if everybody's content, that because we have received no notifications, that item go on a further agenda and that we don't need to meet next week.
Okay.
Next meeting is 11th of July.
11th of July is our next meeting. Okay. So, Shin, that's us. Meeting adjourned.
Okay.
Committee Room 30, Sound.